Hey guys, Devin Tracy here. Glad to be back with you once again. We're continuing in our 8-week series on God as the best explanation of blank. And today we're going to be talking about the fine-tuning argument. This is known as the teleological argument, and it states that God is the best explanation for the fine-tuning of the universe for intelligent life. Hey, before we dig in though, I want to take a minute to say something really exciting. This is our 4th video on our channel. This is the 4th week in a row that we're doing this, which means that this channel has been alive for exactly 1 month now. And in the last month, we have gotten nearly 6,000 total views on all of our videos, and we have 84 subscribers. And that is amazing, and I am so excited that we are doing so well in such an early stage, posting once a week. Thank you so much for watching, thank you so much for participating, and thank you for believing in us. And hey, before I dive into, this is the moment when I think most people do like a sponsorship statement. They're like, this video is sponsored by so-and-so, and then they talk more about them later. Well, hey, we aren't actually sponsored by somebody, but what is really cool is that the Defenders Academy has teamed up and created a company called Agape Watches. So agapewatches.com, 100% of the proceeds for anything bought on that site goes to supporting the Defenders Academy. So right now we have 2 people on Patreon supporting us so we can continue to do our mission. And if you want to support us and also get some cool merch, check out agapewatches.com. I have a link in the description. They have watches. They also have all of the merch that we have in the Defenders Academy. So you can go ahead and check it out, get a really good deal. And you know what? I'm even going to hook you up with a special discount. I have the promo code for the discount in the description as well. So go ahead and check that out, but watch this video first, all right? Let's dive into it. The fine-tuning of the universe for intelligent life. This is what's known as the teleological argument. This is the argument that states that the universe is so finely tuned that there must have been somebody who tuned it. So let's have a conversation about this argument. Now, this is not just a conclusion that theists come to. This is not just something that Christians think, but even famous, renowned atheists are blown away by the fine-tuning of the universe. Here's a quote from Stephen Hawking. "The remarkable fact is that the value of these numbers seem to have been very finely adjusted to make possible the development of life." So, with that in mind, that this is actually something that atheistic philosophers, atheistic scientists, cosmologists, physicists agree the universe is uniquely fine-tuned. This argument is all about what is the best explanation of that fine-tuning. So here's the formal argument. The teleological argument goes as follows. 1. The universe is incredibly finely tuned for life. Premise 2. The fine-tuning of the universe is either the result of physical necessity, chance, or design. Premise 3. The fine-tuning of the universe is not caused by physical necessity or chance. Again, let's examine the logic of this argument. We're not going to look at the validity of these premises first. First, we're going to see what the conclusion must be if the premises were true. Okay, the universe is finely tuned for life. The fine-tuning is due to logical necessity, chance, or design, but it's not due to logical necessity or chance. Conclusion, therefore, the fine-tuning of the universe is caused by design. So, all right, let's get into each of these premises, shall we? Premise 1, the universe is incredibly fine-tuned for life. Okay, so let's have a conversation about that. So one objection might be, you could say that it might appear that the universe was finely tuned for human life because we are a byproduct of the conditions of the universe. So we could be ordering in the wrong direction. Right? It would make sense that a machine that was designed, a machine that creates a product that looks as though the machine was finely tuned to create said product. Right? And so you could argue that it's just a order of operations thing, that us being the product, of course we look back at the machine and say it was finely tuned to create us. Now, to be entirely honest, there are presentations of the teleological argument for which this critique is appropriate. There are teleological arguments that focus in on very precise things that talk about consciousness, or very precise things that talk about biology, or that talk about the perfect placement of this planet. And I think those all fall victim to this objection. I think this is a fair objection for those arguments, which is why I'm not making an argument of that nature today. For that very reason, we're going to focus on elements that would prohibit the life of any form. Okay? So, To date, we have discovered 140 interdependent environmental conditions which are finely tuned for the development of life of any form. Okay. These are known as anthropic constants. The term anthropic means involving human life, to be fair. But these anthropic constants that we're going to be focusing on today are ones that don't prohibit just human life. They prohibit the very concept of life. You can find a comprehensive list of all 140 of the currently known anthropic constants on reason.org. Today, we're only going to talk about 4. We're going to talk about the expansion rate of the universe. We're going to talk about the gravitational constant. We're going to talk about the electromagnetic force constant. And we're going to talk about the initial distribution of mass energy in the early universe. Okay? So, if the expansion rate of the universe were altered by just 0.00000000001% in either direction, what would happen is that there would be no life of any form. Why? Well, the expansion rate of the universe, if it was just infinitesimally slower, then it wouldn't have overcame the force of gravity. The universe would have imploded upon itself, and there would have been no formation of stars, no formation of planets, and therefore no life. Similarly, if it would have expanded too fast, then it would have overcome the physical force of gravity, and similarly, no stars would form, no planets would form. There'd be nothing but atoms throughout the cosmos, and therefore no life. We see a similar relationship in all 4 of these constants. If the electromagnetic force constant were altered by just 0.000000000000000 by just that much, or if the gravitational force were altered by just that much, or if the initial distribution of mass in the early universe were altered by just that much, if any one of these had been altered by just that much, then life of any form would not have been possible in the universe. So we can say, having only done a small sample of 4 out of 140 of these constants, that yes, the universe is incredibly finely tuned for life, because each one of these on its own has a probability less than a hair's breadth. It's delicate precision. If it had been off just slightly, no life of any form would have been possible. This is the meaning of finely tuned. Now, the question, and I wanted to be clear, this premise is not a question-begging premise. Because when I say finely tuned, I am not implying that there was somebody who tuned it. I am simply saying that it is infinitesimally precise. And we can see that these constants are infinitesimally precise. Okay. So, premise 3. Wait, what about premise 2? Why do you skip premise 2? Because premise 2 is just a sampling of live options as explanations for this. So it says that there are 3 live options. It says that it could be due to physical necessity, chance, or design. And because that is simply a sampling of all live options, there is no argument on premise 2. So we move on to premise 3, which is probably the only controversial premise in this argument, which is that the fine-tuning of the universe is not caused by logical necessity or by chance. So let me go through why it's not reasonable to think that it was caused by logical necessity or chance. Let's start with necessity. Physical necessity. So the overwhelming consensus in the scientific community is that this is not the cause of the fine-tuning. Best current theory of everything. And so here's an argument explanation as to why the consensus is generally speaking no. Because currently our best current existing live theory of everything is known as superstring theory or M theory. Well, inside superstring theory, there are 10 to the 500 different possible universes based on the variations of the anthropic constants. What that means is, inside the laws of physics that we know and understand of our universe, according to superstring theory, there are 10 followed by 500 zeros. 1 followed by 500 zeros. Different ways that those initial constants could have been adjusted that fit everything we know about the laws of physics. And any one of those slight adjustments would have constituted a different possible universe. So we have an incredibly large range of possibilities, and among that, a very precise possibility that makes life possible. That's why the overwhelming consensus among the scholarship is that no, the fine-tuning of the universe is not due to physical necessity. It is obvious that the universe could have been constructed in different ways than it is, and those ways would not have been life-permitting. So, theoretical physicist Paul Davies said, the laws of physics must be augmented by cosmic initial conditions. There is nothing in present ideas about laws of initial conditions. So it seems then that the physical universe does not have to be the way it is. It could have been otherwise. This is actually the primary reason why people like Stephen Hawking will argue for the concept of a multiverse. Because this incredible fine-tuning is not necessary. And as soon as I defend why chance isn't relevant, you'll understand how come we want to invoke a multiverse so that we can keep the possibility of chance alive as an explanation for why the universe is finely tuned for life. Okay. So, the fine-tuning of the universe is not caused by physical necessity. What about chance? Well, just a moment ago, I explained just 4 out of the 140 anthropic constants and how finely tuned they were. Right? So you could see by looking at any one of those what the probability of that one being the way that it is actually is. Right? So you could figure out the chance pretty simply. But what do we do when we have multiple different probabilities that are all occurring at the same time? Well, if they're mutually exclusive, then the values look like this. You would have the odds of anthropic constant number 1 multiplied by the odds of anthropic constant number 2 multiplied by the odds of anthropic constant number 3 all the way to anthropic constant 140. We only talked about 4 anthropic constants, and so I'm only going to talk about what happens if we multiply their probabilities together. Okay? So the gravitational force constant, the electromagnetic force constant, the initial distribution of mass energy, and the expansion rate of the universe. What's the probability of all of those being within the range necessary for life to be permitted at the same time? It's 1 in 10 to the 144. Or, to show that visually, it's 1 in 1 with all those zeros behind it. If you're anything like me, that number means virtually nothing. And you can say, okay, that's a big number, so I can see how the odds of that are slim. But let me paint a picture on just how incredibly slim these odds actually are. Okay? Imagine this. Imagine that you and I were to play a game, and I asked you, I said, I have marked a random atom within the Milky Way galaxy, and I need you to pick that specific atom at random. If you pick that atom at random, you win. If you pick the wrong atom, you lose. Okay? Now, imagine, I didn't ask you to do that once. I asked you to do that twice. You need to pick the right atom 2 times in a row. If you miss on the first try, or if you miss on the second time, you lose. Okay? As incredibly unlikely as it seems that you'd be able to pick the right atom in the Milky Way 2 times in a row, you are actually 10 billion times more likely to pick the correct atom twice than you are to have each of these 4 quantities be life permitting at the same time. That's a fun typo. Life permitting. Okay. So this is why, remember, this is only 4 out of 140 constants, right? So if just 4 of them being right, you have better odds, you have insanely better odds of picking the right atom out of the Milky Way 2 times in a row than just 4 being right. But there's 140. This is why Dr. William Lane Craig says the odds against the universe's being life permitting are so incomprehensibly great that they can't be reasonably faced. This is why so many will turn to the concept of a multiverse, because the odds don't make any sense. It's not possible for chance to have gotten us a life-permitting universe, and it's not due to physical necessity. So to avoid the idea that it's from design, you'll postulate a world ensemble with an infinite number of universes, or a near infinite number of universes perhaps, and say with so many universes, it's inevitable that as long as the probability is not 0, at least one of those universes would be life permitting. Now, there's a couple problems with the idea of a multiverse. One is that it is absolutely 100% impossible to have any evidence of the multiverse. Which means if you accept a multiverse theory, you are literally doing that on faith and faith alone. It is a more unreasonable belief system than any religious belief system ever, because all theistic belief systems can at the very least have an argument to the best explanation, such as this argument. The multiverse is not an argument to the best explanation. It's an argument to, we don't have an explanation and we don't want to admit God exists. And then there's also serious issues with the concept of a multiverse. First off, you can't have an actual infinite. We've talked about that in the past. So there could be an infinite number of multiverses. Secondly, even if you did see a life-permitting universe, the odds of it being the size of our universe are still infinitesimally small. So we should be observing a small universe, one that has maybe one conscious mind, and so on and so on. This doesn't actually help the problem. It actually makes it more problematic because, like I said, you can't have an infinite number of universes. So some who postulate a multiverse will also postulate a mechanism that is producing these universes. Well, that mechanism itself would have to be infinitesimally finely tuned. So you didn't actually fix the problem, you just moved it back a single step. So we could talk more about that. Maybe we'll on a future video if you want me to. Leave a comment in the comments if you actually want to know more about why the multiverse doesn't make sense, because I didn't actually prepare for this, which is why we're still on the same slide. It's just something that comes up in this conversation. All right, let's look at our argument. Okay, the teleological argument. The universe is incredibly finely tuned for life. We showed that with a small sampling. The fine-tuning of the universe is either logical or physical necessity, chance, or design. Those are the live options. We've shown that it is not caused by physical necessity in all likelihood, and that it is completely untenable to even assume that it's by chance. It therefore follows that the fine-tuning of the universe is caused by design. And there we have another very strong argument for the existence of God, because if it was caused by design, that means there was a designer. That's what I have for you guys. God bless. Hey, did you know that we actually have a podcast? Yeah, in addition to our YouTube channel, in addition to our Patreon, in addition to Agape Watches, which we've just launched, we also have a podcast that's been going on for even longer than anything else that we have. So if you want to check out our podcast, it's on Spotify. The title is Defender's Digest, just like this YouTube channel. And I have a link for it in the description. I think you're going to like the podcast just as much as you like the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching. Love you guys. Gratefully consider supporting us on Patreon. God bless.